After a 7-year struggle with infertility and multiple miscarriages, Sharon van Wyk embarked on a journey to adoption. She started a blog and website as a dedicated resource center for South Africans on the subject of adoption, and has shared her story with thousands of families.
When did you realize that adoption is an option?
I have 2 adopted cousins, so adoption was always something that I was open to. Even as a young girl growing up, I always thought it was such a special thing. And when I had my first miscarriage, I had this gut feeling that something was wrong and that adoption was the path we were meant to go on. And I already then started speaking to Walter about it. But it is a process for a lot of people, and Walter wasn't quite on the same page as me. And after our 7th miscarriage, he came to me and he said, "Fine, I'm ready. Let's start the process."
Sharon's husband Walter, like many others, struggled with the idea for a long time, until he had a unique clarifying moment that completely changed his perception of adoption.
I think one of the biggest things that keep people from making or going down this amazing journey is fear. For a long time, I was scared. I didn't know how I would react, how I would feel. I was scared. And a few years ago, Sharon one day sprung a surprise on me with a Boerboel dog that was rescued from Zimbabwe. And I was very cross at that time that I didn't want this dog and whatever, but we got this dog, and she was completely stuffed up and whatever, but we got this dog. And through time, this dog became my dog. And I loved this dog to pieces. And when she came to a very old age, I looked at this dog one day and I said to Sharon that, and I knew that I had to make a very difficult decision about, possibly putting her down. And at that instant, it was a very clear instant moment to me. I looked and I realized that if I could love a dog that much, how much could I love a child? And that was one of those click moments in my life when I realized I should stop being scared of it, go with it, and I know that it would be an amazing journey.
After Walter and Sharon had made the decision, they immediately started the application process to adopt, a process that can be quite daunting.
Tell us about applying for adoption. Was it daunting?
It's a very in-depth profile. You are literally put under a magnifying glass. We had to provide financial statements. We had to have our marriage assessed. We went for health screening. So you really have to prove that your viability as a parent in every aspect.
For a century, Johannesburg Child Welfare has advocated for the care and needs of thousands of vulnerable children. They specialize in the adoption of orphaned or surrendered children.
What is the basic process of adopting a child, and how long can this typical application take?
I think adoption agencies are often criticized, for putting families through all this red tape and getting them to jump through all the hoops. But I think if one realizes that we're actually speaking for these children and we're making lifelong decisions for a child who has no one else to make those decisions, we really have a responsibility to make absolutely sure that we're finding the best possible family.
Because South Africa has such a diverse population, one of the greatest obstacles hindering our adoption rate is ethnic and cultural barriers. Barriers that South African welfare societies are working tirelessly to break down.
What is the current situation in South Africa?
In South Africa, we have a very unique situation in that we have large numbers of children, black children, waiting for families, and very few families coming forward to adopt those children. Whereas in the white-coloured and Indian communities, we have very, very few children with large numbers of families wanting to adopt those children.
What do social workers and the state look for in adoptive parents?
I think we're always just looking for parents who have a genuine motivation, and that motivation would be to provide a home for a child, to want to be a family, to provide security and stability for a child, and to love the child and be part of their family.
Sharon and her husband's first daughter, Ava Grace, came into their lives quite unexpectedly in what can only be described as an adoption miracle.
Tell us about the day that you heard your first adoption process was successful. How did you feel? And how long after that did you become parents?
Ava's placement is quite an incredible story. It is the exception. I really want to state that. After 2 weeks, one Monday morning, I was at work and she phoned me and said, "You've been selected. Can you fly to Cape Town on Friday to come and meet the birth mum on Saturday? Because her baby's due next week." the 17th of December. I'll never forget it. And then on Sunday morning at 20 to 6, Ava was born that day. So it was 3 weeks from start, 3 weeks from start to finish.
The Van Wyk's second adoption took much longer, 2 years in fact, which is closer to the norm. After Hannah joined the family, Sharon feels her family is now complete.
The adoption journey has been exceptionally special for me. I've realized that if it wasn't for this journey, I would never in my life have experienced fatherhood. The pride and joy of seeing my girls taking their first steps, my girl starting to ride a bike, writing her name at school, it's exceptionally special. Words can't describe it.
The Van Wyk family is a perfect example of how incredible adoption can be for both parents and children. Although they are still faced with some challenges due to the misconceptions that exist about the subject.
The biggest challenge that we've faced is that a lot of people don't really understand adoption. When you hear about it, you read about it, you see celebrities that are adopting children, but they don't really understand the nitty-gritty of the process. So we get a lot of wholly inappropriate questions and comments that are often made in front of the children, which I really don't like. Things like, what about their real mom, or where's their real dad, when Walter and I are their real parents, and also questions about their race. I don't want them to be so focused on the fact that they are different to Walter and I, or have a different race to Walter and I, or even the fact that they're adopted. It's not the focal point of what their lives are about. And in saying that, it's certainly not a secret. They both have always known, and will always know, that they are adopted. But it's also their story. It's not for the general public to know every intimate detail of why their birth parents chose to place them. That's their story for them to tell, and when they want to tell.
Sharon started her website Trinity Heart as a dedicated resource centre for South Africans on the subject of adoption, as she is passionate about educating and supporting people through the process.
I would really say to people to try and open your hearts, because these little children, they will just change your life, your perception. It's been an absolutely incredible journey and experience. I've learned so much about myself and a human's ability to just love unconditionally. Especially Ava's placement was very quick. And the day after she was born, I woke up that morning and she was sleeping in the cot next to the bed, and I looked down at her. And in an instant, I knew I would stand in front of a speeding train to save her. I knew her life was more valuable than my own, and there was nothing I wouldn't do to save her, and to love her and to care for her and to give her the very best. And it was literally, that was 24 hours after her birth.
The adoption journey can be very daunting. It is emotionally and spiritually taxing. But the reward is building a family and giving a child a loving home.